Okay, I think I'm live, which is awesome. So I'm going to share my screen because it's been a little while since I did one of these. Let's have a little look. So if I'm sharing my screen, let me see. Sorry about this, everybody, because I'm not sharing what I want to share right now. Let's drop this down. Here we go. Now I am. Okay, just loading up on my slow Wi-Fi. So hopefully we're live and recording. Um, Let me go back to the beginning here. So we want to start from scratch. So, hello. You may not even really know me because I started Joy Training, my business, 6 years ago, and I had built up quite a big Facebook following. And then I got hacked a few years in and lost all my memories and all of my build up. So I am slowly building it up online again now. But I do lots of things in my business. And one of the things that I've been doing for the last 3 years is an over 40s photo shoot shred. Um, Body transformation is one of my biggest things that I do. And when you do this with people over the age of 40, it's quite different protocol, but still excellent results. And one of the questions that I always get when I'm doing these kind of shreds is, Holly, you're not giving me enough sit-ups and ab crunches. I think I need more. I want to get my six pack through. And so I thought maybe it's time for me to do a little webinar talk to kind of share the truth around this, because I think there's a lot of misnomers about how to get your six pack abs through. As a former competitive bodybuilder, which I did for 7 years, and now I compete in various different strength type races like Deca Atlas. I compete in Spartan races. I like to do obstacle course racing. There'll be a lot more of that happening this year. I've transformed my own body many times. And now, in the last 6 years, I've transformed the physiques of many men and women also. I have a StyQ 3D body scanner now, which has even more given me more knowledge to understand how the body works and what different people look like with different body fat percentages and different ages. So I feel equipped to be able to answer your questions. Now, I'm just going to flick on my phone just to check that this is actually, that I am in fact live right now. So yes, I think I am. I see myself. That's cool. So although I can't see any comments or anything on my computer screen, I'm going to flick onto my phone. So if there is anything that you wanted to say or ask a question, I'll keep flicking on my phone and have a little look so that I can answer you right now. That's the value of being live. How to have a six pack probably seems pretty far away for some people. If you've never seen your abs, you deserve to. So I'm going to go through a few of the misnomers, bust a few myths, and give you some facts. So, as I said, I started competing in bodybuilding, which meant I started learning how to shred my body. My first one was 2017, but I started training in a gym properly in 2016. And the photos here that you can see on the screen, this one here, this was the best I could do with my body for my first show in 2017. And I did lots of abdominal exercises as well as lots of weight training, dieted really hard. I did a Dave Palumbo style keto diet. Keto diet means that you train your brain to take its fuel from fats instead of carbohydrates. That's what I did. You generally have under 20 grams of carbs a day. That's what I did. In fact, some days I didn't have any fuel source other than protein and vegetable, which is very, very hard. But the reason I give you that information is to tell you that I couldn't have dieted any more. And that was the best six pack that I could produce. Here on the right was my last competition in 2022, and completely different type of six pack. And just so you know, I did no abdominal exercises that year at all, only weight training. So training style is important, but it clearly from these photos, it actually isn't to do with the direct abdominal exercises. Sit-ups and planks are not key. Weight training is key, free weight training. So machines don't really use your abs that much. Occasionally they do, but machines are valuable for being loadable, which means that you can put a lot of weight on a machine because the machine is generally holding you into place so that you can't make too many mistakes with your form, and you can load up that machine and really get some weight on it. But when you're working with free weights, you have to learn how to hold your own body in space. So you're going to need to work on a lot of joint stability. You're going to have to think about foot placement and weight distribution. And you're going to have to think, are you straight? And your all of those movements when you're doing your deadlifts, when you're doing walks like farmers carries, when you're doing hangs, um, even when you're just standing there doing like a bicep curl, you've got your core engaged, because if you're swinging at your hips, then you're actually not focusing on the body part that you're trying to train. So in all of these free weight movements, your body is locked into place, your core is engaged. If you're doing deadlift style, then you're going to be bracing, you're going to be keeping your rib cage over your pelvis, you're going to be controlling your breathing. This is building your abs. And this is what has built my abs. And this was the reason why in 2022 I still had an epic six pack, arguably no less of a six pack than all the previous years. Yet I did no sit ups and no planks. I was just fully focused on my weight training exercises. So it's really important when I work with people and they say to me, you know, let's do abs today. You are hitting your abs and your core, because it goes all the way around. That's your lower back as well, and your side obliques. You're hitting those when you weight train with intensity and using free weights and doing body weight movements as well. You don't need to just do sit-ups and planks. So I wanted to bust that myth. That's like, if you're going to have to choose where to spend your time in a workout, don't spend it on doing ab crunches and sit-ups, because if that was the truth, then everybody that goes to Pilates and everybody that does yoga would have epic six packs like this. But on the whole, they don't. You'll see more CrossFitters and bodybuilders and serious weight trainers that train with intensity having a six pack. There's a reason for that. Diet, of course. This is so important because you build your abs through your strategic weight training with resistance, having good form, maintaining your mass centrally, having good foot pressure into the floor, nice flat shoes or bare feet. I'm a fan of the barefoot shoes. But you're only going to see what you've built when you reveal it through your diet. So there's going to be a shred involved, because the body's the ultimate survival machine. It's never going to let you die. When you shred down and restrict your food, your body is at risk of dying. So shredding down is more an art than a science. I'll talk about that in a minute. Ultimately, in the beginning, you're going to reduce your caloric intake and or increase what you're expending on your movement and your exercise. But eventually, as you go along, and depending on your age, your genetics, your gender, you're going to have to do a few more things to trick the body. But in the beginning, and especially if you've never done this before, just reducing what you eat is going to make a huge difference. And most people are just not used to doing that. And that's the hardest thing ever for a lot of people. Not everyone, because not everybody is completely focused on food all the time. I've worked with a lot of athletes that are not very food oriented. You've probably got pets that are not that food oriented, and you have to find other ways to do training with them. It's the same with people. And actually, people that are not food oriented, they have to be careful not to go too far, that they don't eat enough and they start to get quite emaciated. But we really need to focus on high protein, because that has a muscle sparing effect, which means that when you are dieting, you want to be careful you don't go catabolic, which means that your body's using your muscle as fuel. Easier than you think to do, especially if you weight train very hard. So we want to work out, we want to just bring your food down a little bit, because the ideal is to be able to eat as much as possible but still be losing weight. By the way, the more muscular you are, the more fuel you burn just standing there. That's your basal metabolic rate. So training comes first. If I work with someone from scratch, the first thing I'm focused on is building their muscle. I'm not focused on a cut. So step one for me is always, oh, Matt says the photos aren't showing on my live. Oh no, sad times. That's a shame. All right, let me see. Oh, this is such a shame. Let me see. So on my share, let's see. I'm screen share. Okay, hopefully that's fixed that. I'll just go back so you can see the pictures that I was sharing. This was my screen one, just to show you that I know what I'm talking about and that I have transformed my body many times. This was the screen two where I was showing you, hopefully you can see this now. Picture one was my first show. Let's just check on this. Sorry, guys. Make sure that I'm getting this. Let me come onto my Facebook and let the people speak and tell me what they need to say. Brilliant. Okay, it's working now. I'm super happy. So now that you can see these pictures, this one here on the left was my first show. And that was where I mentioned that I could not have dieted any harder in a keto style diet. And I was training really hard and doing loads of abdominal exercises. And this was the best six pack I could produce. And then on the right, this was 2022, my last competition. I didn't do any abdominal exercises directly, only heavy resistance weight training. I should add at this point, if you're keen to maintain a small waist, this is men and women, don't do too many weighted, twisted movements because the obliques, which is the side of your abs, I use my mouse if you can see, these are your obliques. They're a muscle and they will grow out. Now, hey, I do obstacle course racing and CrossFit style now. I want to have a thick waist. I don't care. I want to be strong. I'm performance based. But aesthetically, if you are bothered about your silhouette and you want to have a narrow waist, if the obliques grow out, your waist will get thicker and you would need to have much wider shoulders. And this is the truth for guys as well. So just when you're doing twisted movements or heavy weighted side oblique movements, don't use too much weight, even just body weight for your Russian knuckle twists and your Pallof press and that kind of thing. Okay. But when it comes to performance, aesthetics, performance, you do need a thicker waist because you do need to have thick obliques because they're going to protect your lower back. So we're not going to avoid deadlifting. We're not going to avoid squatting. We're not going to avoid heavy weighted side movements when we want to stay in one piece. But if you're looking at aesthetics only, I wouldn't let anybody doing any weighted twisted movements. I'm glad you can see this screen now. Sorry for that. And here we're talking about diet. So I said protein is super important because it has a muscle sparing effect. So that means that before you're doing heavy training, make sure you've had some protein. I like a protein powder shake a few hours before training, or if you've got the luxury of eating a meal like tuna, chicken, oats with protein, protein yogurt, like a good few hours, like 2.5 hours, 3 hours before training, do that because you want to have time to digest it so you don't feel sick in training. But most importantly, when you've finished your weight training, get some protein and carbohydrate in pretty pronto. They talk about the anabolic window of being like up to an hour after training. Some people poo-poo that and say, what a load of nonsense. I don't think it is. I think there, especially when you're dieting, there is an optimal time. We call this nutrient partitioning. Nutrient partitioning is organizing your food around your exercise to make it be absorbed and used most readily. And I believe that is true. That's what I've experienced with my body and my athletes. So I would always recommend, I like beef protein powder. I'm a big fan of that. So I would recommend beef protein powder straight after training as a shake. I have my creatine after weight training, and then I'll have a banana so that the carbohydrate pushes the creatine into my muscles after training, and that's super important. You want to have good fats. I've got a little good fats list here. That's your monounsaturated fats, like your oils, your nuts, your seeds, your avocado, your oily fish like salmon. Good for you and helps you hormonally as well, because as I mentioned before, body transformation is more art than science. So eventually, cutting calories, exercising, the body's going to say, nah, I'm not giving you any more because you're going to kill me. I don't want to die. So you have to start getting inventive and bring in treat meals to bring the calories up, and then the body lets go of some fat. Or you have to start tweaking your macronutrients, which is your carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. So, and then the body feels happy again that it's getting more. If you're meeting your hormonal needs with your good fats, your body's running well, it's healthy, it's detoxing well, it's happy to lose fat. So these things are really important, but just because we're talking about your six-pack abs, there is absolutely no point in training really hard and then just eating a ton of crap or eating too much, because you're never going to see them. If you want to see them, you have to shred to reveal what you've built. And the more times that you do little mini cuts and then bulk and then mini cut and bulk, you start to develop a body that you start, like my abs are always under the surface all the time. So I know that I'm just carrying some water weight and some fat, it will be gone pretty easily. But when you first start building, you don't have that muscularity to rely upon. And that's important for your health as well. So diet's going to be key, really key. And when it comes to shredding my over 40s photo shooters, like the training is important, but the diet would be like 75% of the equation, because I really want them, if they want to see their six pack. Cardiovascular. At this point, I'm just going to see if I can see some of your questions, just in case you've asked me anything on Facebook here. Let's have a little look. I can see some reactions, but not any questions that I can see at the moment. Oh, here you go. I've got some little sayings. Oh, morning. Lynn is there. Hi, Lynn. And they've got Matt is there. Thank you, Matt. And Nicola's there. She's on the Stairmaster. She's one of my over 40s photo shooters, which is so cool. She's going to be looking epic. Oh, Fiona's watching from Sussex. I love it. Oh, Fiona says, what do I think about fasting? Well, autophagy, I think it's called, which is when the body gets the chance to heal itself. I think fasting is fantastic for that. So if you've got inflammation in the body, or if you've got certain disease in the body, fasting can be fantastic, because instead of having to waste all its energy digesting and dealing with inflammation from certain foods, the body can just focus on healing. And there are many examples of people healing from many different diseases, and improving inflammation in the body by just not eating. So actually, there's been a few Mondays that I've fasted for 24 hours because I don't train on a Monday. So it's really easy for me to do that. And actually, to be honest, it lets me focus on my work, because I just don't have to think about getting up, getting my meals. When it comes to growth of muscle, which we talked about, raising up your basal metabolic rate, which means you burn more fuel. When it comes to building muscle, forget fasting. You need to eat. You need to eat regularly, healthy meals at regular intervals, because that's going to build your muscle. That's going to build your basal metabolic rate, which means eventually when you do come to diet, you're more muscular, you're burning more fuel, you don't need to diet as low. And, you know, we're all about building muscle, not just from being able to burn fuel, but also because after the age of 40, you're losing muscle mass by something like 8% a year, I think it is. So you are going to go catabolic if you don't do something about this. Eating food builds muscle. We cannot build muscle without eating food. So fasting for health-related conditions, but not fasting for the other things. When it comes to seeing your six-pack, you're going to be dieting. If you find it easier to start your meals for that day later because it's going to stop you binging, great. Start eating later in the day. I'm happy with that. But it's going to have an impact on your performance in the gym. It's going to have an impact on how you train. If that starts to happen, now you're not training optimally. So you see what I mean when I say there's a reason why people have coaches to take this thinking for you out of it and just let you do. Okay, so it's horses for courses. Now, when it comes to cardiovascular, when I'm trying to get someone to see their six pack, I want them to maintain their muscle mass. Your six pack is muscle mass, by the way. Your abdominal, your rectus abdominis is muscle, and your transverse is the muscle underneath. So I like low intensity, steady state cardio if people have time. in this day and age, most people don't have time. And so they're going to do HIIT cardio, which just really means high intensity, done quickly. They're using glucose as their main energy source. And okay, we'll just do the best we can. We're just going to cut their calories, let them get sweaty, doing their HIIT classes or doing a spin class or something that's high intensity and gets their heart rate up. In an ideal world, I would just have them walking at a decent pace for a long time, anything from 45 minutes to 2.5 hours. Most people haven't got that just to devote to cardio, so I accept that. Bodybuilders do it in that way. They walk regularly. I can't tell you this beach over here, Greve de Lec Beach, sorry, not Greve de Lec Beach, Green Island, St. Clement's Beach. I used to walk endlessly walking, and the body eventually would then uses fat as a fuel source, stored body fat, because you're going steady and you're going long. And that's the best form of cardio for revealing a six pack. It's just that I have to work with people's lifestyles. And I also want them to weight train. If I have to choose, if I would think that they're going catabolic and they're starting to use their muscle mass too much, and there's only so many hours in the day that they can use for training, I'm going to push them into low intensity, steady state cardio, number one, and just keep a few key weight training movements. If they've got time to do a good 45-minute weight training session and spend an hour doing long, steady state cardio, we do it. So it's horses for courses, but don't always think that you need to get hot and sweaty and red faced to reveal your six pack, because I revealed my six pack so many times since I started training since 2017. I'm going to do it again this year when I've finished doing all my projects with the people. I know that I don't need to be doing sweaty cardio. I never did. I never did. So it's just not necessary. Hormones and genetics, this is important. Sorry, I moved my little picky. So, oh, I jumped forward too far. My bad. Sorry for that. You know, as we get older, I don't like to become limited and put people in a box, because that's just annoying. And I think there's just too much now about the menopause, and everybody's thinking that they can't do anything and they mustn't do this. Look, the equation's always going to be get moving, use weights, and only eat what you need. That's going to be the rule of thumb always. But it is true that as our hormones change, we distribute our fat differently. People distribute their fat based on their genetics, number one. So there's going to be people that have stubborn body fat on their lower back or on their tummy or on their bum, hips, and thighs, right? There'll be other people that naturally store it in their face or naturally don't. Genetic fat distribution is a thing. And you'll see that ethnically, where like you'll have certain races of people that always hold a lot of body fat on their bum, and some races of people that, and you'll see this muscularly, some races of people have got really high calf insertions, and ethnically that's them. And then genetically, that's your family traits where you distribute your fat. But as your hormones change, so too does the distribution of your fat. And women can become more male in the distribution of their fat. So naturally, women will distribute their fat more on their bums and hips and thighs, and they have that womanly curve. And then as their estrogen drops, they start to hold it more on their tummy, generally. And that's when they'll be like, oh, I don't understand it. Like I used to be able to just not do much exercise and I never had this fat on my tummy and now I do. So where they're distributing their fat has changed. But the answer remains the same, okay? It just means that you just need to change your tactics a little bit, but that's why you've got a coach to say, hey, let's tweak this, let's tweak this. The answer is always to know yourself. So the more education you can build up on how your body responds, the better. That's going to stand you in a good stead, because you're like, hey, this is what normally works for me. It's not working now, so I'm only going to change this one thing, give it a chance to work. It's not working. I'm going to change this one thing, give it a chance to work. Okay. Super important. And the sooner you can start building muscle mass, the better, because that's your health pension. Once you start building muscle, you bank it forever. Look at Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's now, what is he, in his late 70s? And he's still a muscle machine. And when that guy drop kicked him in the back at that show, he literally just walked forward a step. He wasn't even bothered, because you don't lose muscle once you've built it. It just goes dormant. You might lose a little bit, but not a lot. You bank it for life. And that's what muscle memory is. It's there if you choose to switch it on again. Whereas if you never build it, you're going to look so emaciated when you get into your older age, and you're going to be so weak, and your bone density is going to be so poor because your osteoblastic activity is gone. They're the little cells that bring calcium and whatnot to your bones to make them strong. So it definitely plays a part. So also, just for example, with your six pack, I happen to have one that's very symmetrical. All of my little ab sections are the same, but some people's genetics are that their ab sections are asymmetric, higher or lower. And some people have got 8 little cubes, and some people have only got 6, and some people have just got a band of fascia around the bottom here. Don't you deserve to know what yours is? I'd want to know. You've got to get lean enough to see it, right? And then I just was sort of trying to show, like I was putting a picture of Lenda Murray up here to show like some people's abdominal sections are very blocky. Some people's are a bit smaller, like mine. And like here, you can, on Lenda, you can see 4 main ones. On me, you can generally see 6 main ones. On some people, you can see 8. It's super good to know. Everybody, no matter how old you are, or what your genetics are, or what your gender is, everybody's capable of seeing their six pack. It's just harder and it takes time, but you can definitely do it. And then I wanted to just show here a screen with some couple of people I've worked with and have shared online before, so I know they don't mind me sharing, and my own self to talk about consistency. I'll just quickly click on Facebook. I'm aware I've been talking for a while. I just want to see if anybody else has asked any questions, because that was kind of the point of me being live. Let's see. Oh, Nicola was just saying that she did a 3-day fast before. She felt amazing, but she didn't train during that fast. Absolutely, super important. Horses for courses. If you're looking to build muscle, which is what I would suggest if you are trying to see your six pack, because we've got to build the six pack and then we've got to reveal it. There's nothing to reveal if we didn't build it. You got to eat if you want to build, right? All of these people have used consistency in these pictures because also you transform, your six pack develops over the years. By the way, you can spend years training badly and never improve. Isn't that sad? I just wanted to tell you that because I had a couple of years where I did that. I didn't train well. I thought I was. By the way, this isn't deliberate. I just didn't know. I thought I was training with enough intensity and I wasn't. And sometimes that's when you need a training partner or that's when you need a coach because you want someone to push you, especially when you're training legs, because you're going to quit because it's hard, or give you confidence. Maybe you need someone to spot you on that bench press, spot you on that squat, make you feel like you can just get those extra reps that you're nervous to do it on your own. And that's a valid nervous thing. Like you're valid to be nervous because you can hurt yourself with heavy weights. So if you don't realize that you're training less than optimally, you can waste years just staying the same. And that's fine if you're just doing this recreationally. But if you really want to transform your body and develop and improve, which most people do, you need to ensure that you are training with intensity, that you are challenging yourself, that you are dieting occasionally to see where you're at, that you are eating optimally for your health, that you are trying different sports and different methods of training, which challenges your body. The body is the ultimate, I said, survival machine. It's also the ultimate adaptive machine. It adapts to what you throw at it. So if you want to make your body look different to how it's been before, then you need to do something different to what you've done before. But all of the people in these pictures, which I think you can see, they applied consistency. So they found something that worked and they took it as far as they could. And you can see from the pictures how well they were able to develop. And in my pictures, one of the biggest things I would struggle with is having dieted incredibly hard for bodybuilding. I would then overeat and binge eat straight away. You really need emotional support when you come off the back of a heavy diet. That's where a coach is useful. When I finish my over 40s photo shoot and they're completed, I always give them some calories to go immediately onto. I try and get them up to a healthy ratio like very quickly. Because there's no point beating around the bush and asking people to continue dieting for much longer because they're spent. But if you do it carefully and you say, right, come straight up to this many calories a day and have your treat meal on these days, then they're going to mentally be able to manage it. And because the body puts on fat very quickly when you come off the back of a heavy diet, you can do a lot of damage, not least from water retention, by the way. 1 gram of carb holds 3 grams of water. You can literally put yourself into organ failure if you're taking on too much water too soon from overeating. And I've nearly done that a lot of times. Um, and hormonally, you need to allow like your T3 hormone, T4, your thyroid needs to be able to switch back on again. Sometimes those things kind of shut down a little bit. Your insulin receptors can be, when you've dieted, your insulin receptors are very receptive, they're very good, and they're shuttling off everything as they should. They're moving the sugar out of the bloodstream and storing it in the muscles. But they can work overtime. If you suddenly put tons of sugar into your blood system, it's like boom, boom, it's getting stored as fat because the body wants to survive. So have someone to support you when you're coming out of a diet phase, have a plan in place, and be consistent through the years. People underestimate what they can achieve in a long term, and they overestimate what they can do in a short term. So if you stick with it, you can see from these pictures, and these are just a few selects that I picked, what is possible to do. And even my body now, it's funny because people say to me all the time, oh, you used to be so muscly. I am more muscly now than I've ever been before. My legs are the most conditioned they've ever been from the sport that I'm doing. But I just got more body fat than I had in the pictures where they see me competing. So if I diet down again, which I definitely will this year, once I've finished my race in April and when I finish supporting the people through the photo shoot. By the way, coaches that are dieting heavily and competing themselves are not giving their best selves to their clients at that point. They can't mentally. Like, if the coach is in a good place mentally, eating a stable amount of food and not too focused on their own competing, then they're able to give fully to their clients. And I have experienced that with coaches of me, and I have been a coach myself, and I know how it works. So if I'm going to be doing a diet phase, I'm not going to be doing it at the same time as I'm coaching people through a diet, because people go crazy when they're dieting and you need to be stable for them as a coach. So I think that's really important. You just have to be selfless, put your own needs aside for a minute, deal with your clients through this time, then you can do that. It's very, very, very difficult to be dieting heavily yourself and fully functioning and supporting other people's emotions when they're dieting. That being said, when I do shred down this year, you'll see for yourself the muscle mass that is very much there, just you can't see it when it's covered up in body fat because we've got our subcutaneous fat, which is under the skin, and it just covers up all the muscles. And you can see that as it shreds down and comes away, you start to see it. You've got your visceral fat, which is around your organs. When you tidy up your diet, the visceral fat comes down, and then all your organs are able to work more healthily as well. So I hope that this has been a useful little slideshow for you. Go back to the beginning. I hope that it's given you some facts around being able to get your six-pack through, how to do it, how to see it. I hope that you realize it's not all about sit-ups and abs and all of that. And does anyone have any questions now before I end this talk? If anybody is in fact still here, I'll just check. Have a little look on my phone. And I do apologize for not being able to share the screen at the beginning. Let's see. Any little... Very interesting, says Fiona. Fiona's got arthritis and has been advised to do more reps with lower weights. What are your thoughts? I think that's very smart. And I would never try and overstep my boundaries as a coach. It's really important that coaches know what's within their scope of practice and when to get a GP involved or an osteopath or a chiropractor. And I always send my clients to the relevant experts. But that sounds very smart because you need to be careful with your joints or your bones, depending on the type of arthritis that you have. And anyway, even a healthy person should only be handling weight that they can actually handle. I see too many people going ego lifting, where they go to do a shoulder press with dumbbells they can't lift and they're asking for a spot on the second rep. That's ridiculous. So yeah, Fiona, that sounds like very smart advice that you've been given. Nicola says she's got a new level of respect for bodybuilders. Yeah, I mean, it's really important, I think, for me to share this information for my clients to see that I know what I'm talking about, so that when I'm asking my clients to do something, it's not just from a book, like I've lived it. So I know for sure that it's doable and that it works. And I think that's really important then, that they can have that trust and faith in me to just follow my protocols. And Lynn says, many thanks. Always good to have a reminder, right? And maybe you've even learned some new things from this talk, which I hope so. I'm always upgrading my education. I've just come back from Florida coaching the NFL players through the combine, which I think 9 of them all got top times over the 40-yard dash. I was only with them for a week, but I'd love to think I had some kind of impact. And I've certainly learned so much in my 6 years of business, and I'm only looking to learn more and more and more. So I'll always have the ability to do talks like this and give new information, not just reminders, but new facts. So it just needs to be for the right audience so that they can be on a level of what I'm talking about. So I hope that this has been useful. Thank you. And then Fiona says, will you be doing this again? Absolutely, Fiona. I think it's really important that I do work on building up my content that I share. So absolutely, I'll probably be bringing in some actual booked webinar talks as well, so that we can do a specific talk that people actually come to live in a room with me, and we can all talk together. I used to do those once every quarter, so I think I'll start doing those again. I think it's valuable, and people can say what they want me to talk about as well. And if I can, I will. So thank you all for listening, and I'm going to try and actually stop, I think, now. Oh, and if anybody would like the recording of this because they missed it, I'm happy to email it out. Just drop me a line and I'll stop recording.